Mic check, 1, 2, 3, mic check.
to stand up strong, think the truth about themselves, to understand what went wrong. I know we can find a way. I know we can find a way. I know we can find a way to stand up, stand up, stand up.
Uniting the races with truth instead of dividing them with lies. We're also rebuilding the family by rebuilding the man. I am Jesse Lee Peterson. Good morning. Welcome to the show. You can get involved by calling 888-77-53773. That's 888-77-JESSE. Jesse. Jesse. And my biblical question is a doozy. Brand new biblical question. How do you trust God? How do you trust God? I hear a lot of people say, well, I trust the Lord. I trust God. But they have never told me how until now. How do they trust? We have every way that you can watch and support the show listed on JessieLeePeterson.com/show. That's JessieLeePeterson.com/show. And if you're out and about, you can podcast the show. You don't have to miss it. You can podcast, watch later, and you can listen to the show live while doing whatever it is you're doing. Fighting over the Lord knows what, or whatever you're doing. On the run from ICE, whatever. On an all-female flight, pilot flight, and you're scared, they scared, you scared, everybody scared. Whatever. You can be listening to the show on your iPhone or iPad by calling the listener line on TalkStream Live at 605-615-4131. That's 605-615-4131. Amazing, huh? And to donate and have your comments read out loud, go to buymeacoffee.com/JLP Talk. Buymeacoffee.com/JLP Talk. Or Bond JLP Cash App. Bond JLP Cash App. Amazing. I was thinking about reflecting a little bit, not much. A few things crossed my mind about the Great White Hope and Elon Musk tried to make America better again, and how the liberal media, the Democrats, and the right-o Republicans really don't want the change. It's going to affect their pockets and their so-called power, and how they're desperately fighting to prevent the change from happening because it's personal to them. Not because they care about Americans. They care 2 cents about America, but it's about themselves. And I was reflecting on how they have this so-called DEI thing in place. And they have put it in place all across our country. And it's been there for a couple of years now, and it's kind of rooted in there. And I was thinking, it does, and I hope I'm wrong. I doubt it, but I hope I'm wrong. That it doesn't matter what the president does to make it better as far as jobs, military protection, taxes going down, regulations being taken away. The human beings are so evil that they're going to work overtime and try to figure out a way how to undermine what the president is doing in order to keep the DEI thing going. Really. Don't think they're just going to walk away and sit down. The human heart doesn't work that way when it's evil. And right now, all you have the people who are supporting the Great White Hope fighting against the people who don't. And there is no one in the middle who really are trying to change everything. Not only the physical aspect of what's happening in our country, but the hearts of the people. And if the hearts of the people don't change, it's just you've switched sides for a minute. And eventually, if the hearts of the people don't change, you're going to eventually go back on to the other side. Really. Because at some point, the Democrats will win some things again, and they'll be in control again somewhat. And so all those people who have joined forces with the president, going to go on this back on the other side. Not all, but most. So if the heart don't change, nothing really going to change. You're still going to be unhappy. You're still going to be angry. You're still going to be, even when the president, if and when the president really make things good again, meaning physical things, it's not going to change the hearts of the people. There was, and I tried to play this yesterday, a Delta airline plane flipped at Toronto's airport. According to USA Today, a Delta airline regional jet flipped upside down upon arrival at a Canadian Toronto Pearson Airport on Monday, injuring in 18 of the 80 people on board. Watch this from WKYC.
On the runway in Toronto, a terrifying end for Delta Flight 4819.
Our plane crashed. It's upside down.
Lying upside down on the runway, an Endeavour Air regional jet had just arrived from Minneapolis in gusty winds when something went terribly wrong.
This airplane just crashed at 2-3.
As thick black smoke poured from the plane, firefighters smothered the scene in foam. The right wing ripped off, the fuselage bearing what appeared to be skid or soot marks.
Everything, drop it!
All 80 people on board managed to escape through the emergency exits.
I was walking to this fence and I could see a CRJ that is possibly crashed on the airport. The airplane is flipped.
18 people injured and transported to area hospitals, including 2 airlifted to trauma centers. 1 child rushed to Children's Hospital in Toronto. The plane, a Bombardier CRJ 900 regional jet made in Canada, is a workhorse for short-haul flights worldwide. At the time of the crash, it was 18 degrees with 20 to 30 mile-per-hour winds and strong crosswinds. The question for investigators, how and why did the plane lose at least one, maybe both wings on landing, then flip over, causing jet fuel to spill onto the runway?
I think it's possible the wing may have touched the runway due to a gust.
And so I'm wondering, I don't know what the real deal is yet, and probably would never know. I'm wondering who was flying that flight. Were they pilots who with experience, or were they DEI pilots? Because if you're gonna see in this next soundbite where it looked like the plane was about to land and something happened, and the pilot tripped out, overreacted. It seemed, I don't know, because I don't know what happened. But I wonder, was this due to DEI? What you don't know, and I'm learning more and more about, DEI meaning non-white people and the people who are not qualified to do these jobs. They don't know what they're doing. They're there because they're male or female or black, not male or female, but black or white, female or black, white, black, female or male, white liberals who don't know what they're doing with problems, and others. And I'm wondering, because we've been knowing now for a while that they were putting DEI people in the airports, and it's just not going to work. But what's interesting is that whatever the situation is, we need to know, right? But they don't care. As long as they can get what they want, as long as they can get their money and power by whatever means necessary, they don't care. But I'm wondering who was flying that plane, and did they know what they were doing? Listen, I'm wondering out, but we never gonna know. As like right now, I don't, unless they've said it, I've not heard it. We still don't know the whole detail about the crash over in Washington, D.C. We don't know the whole detail about that yet. I've not heard it. I want you to watch this from X, the footage of the crash captured on a cell phone. Watch this from X.
Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, that's... Tower, you're seeing this airplane just crash into Greek? Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Well, hold shit. Come on, take that out.
Amazing, huh? I'm sorry they didn't take the bad language out. I didn't. My first time hearing it. I wouldn't have played it had I known the guy was saying that way. Amazing. Don't you want to know who was flying the plane and were they experienced in what they were doing? Wouldn't that be nice to know that? Amazing, huh? I want to know. These things are happening, but we're not learning, or they're not telling us, the American people, the taxpayers, why these things are really happening. You have these people on the air speculating, supposed to be experts, but they don't really know. We don't really know. They know, but we don't know. But they want you to keep flying. They're like, keep flying. It's safe. And then when something happens, oh, Lord, our prayers go out to the family. But keep flying. We still going to use DEI. It pays. Amazing stuff, huh? In the United States of America. If ever we needed you, Lord, we need you now. I highly recommend you start working on yourself, folks, because it's going to get worse it's going to get worse. But for you as an individual, it doesn't have to be worse. You could be free in the midst of the storm. Really. If you learn to overcome anger, because you're suffering and miserable with anger, you're suffering. No matter who tell you that it's good and Jesus was angry, you're suffering. Anger is not working. But yeah, because somebody tell you Jesus was angry, or makes you think anger is good, you hold on to it, and you suffer because you listen to a liar. But do what you want. Mason said, I would like to know who was flying that flight. Did they overreact when they attempted to land? Maybe the snow and the wind had something to do with it. But it doesn't make sense to me, and I'm not a pilot, but it doesn't make sense that that plane flipped over like that and just rolled over like that. And it looked like somebody overreacted to something. I could be wrong. And I wouldn't be surprised if they tell us it was DEI drivers, flight drivers. I wouldn't be surprised. But we'll see. I have no idea yet because they have not told us. And I don't expect, especially if it was all women drivers or transgender driver, whatever they call it, right? You're definitely not going to hear about that. Well, maybe the wind has something to do with it, or played a role in it too, maybe. I'm not saying it's not true, but I just don't know. One other thing before I go to the phones here. I was saying over and over again, anger is your enemy. It's evil. It separates you from the light, from freedom, from God. And the result, you're misery. You're living in hell of your imagination, meaning you're lonely, you're depressed, you're suicidal, you're revengeful, you're jealous, you're envy, you're strife, you don't know who you are, and you're looking for love, all kind of stuff, right? And you're mean, and you're nasty, and you're evil. Human nature is evil. I want to, and I've said that, like last year there was protests in New York, California, and other places between the Palestinians and the Jews. And it was reported that the Palestinian was going after the Jews in the universities and places like that. And they pretend to be mad because there's a war, or was a war, I don't know if it's still happening, going on in Israel, between the Palestinian and Israel. And they were in our country chanting from the land to the sea. And they were saying things about America and Israel in our country. I forgot what they were saying, a little chant they were doing. And I was thinking how dumb these people are. They're out protesting and fighting each other, and they have no clue as to why, except that somebody brainwashed them and told them to go out and fight. Fight for Israel, fight for Palestine, fight each other. And you're just students in a classroom, and you have no beef with these people, but you go out and fight anyway, pretending that you are fighting over some stupid stuff. And it's easy to brainwash angry people. Did you know that? Because they're already brainwashed anyway, it's easy to add to that. And that's what's happened to these people. They're fighting, they're already angry, meaning that they're brainwashed. And so other angry people come along and brainwash them. They're not telling you to overcome the anger so you can see. And so apparently last night, so I'm being told that there was a ceasefire in Israel and between Israel and Palestine. And so will they stop chanting from the river to the sea for the American people? You got to let the anger go, folks. But apparently last night, I don't know the detail, there was another riot, another fight between Israel, the Jews, and the Palestinians. And I can guarantee you, if you go over and ask them why are you fighting each other, they will not know. They'll only repeat what the media or some dumb so-called professor told them. They will have no other understanding of why they're fighting. And they're going to gain nothing from it. Isn't that amazing? But they hate each other. You got to drop the anger. All human beings. And anger is not good. CBS News has reported that a man is facing charges following accusation that he fired on a vehicle in Miami Beach on Saturday night after he saw two men in the vehicle. He saw two men who he thought were Palestinians. Watch this from CBS. Amazing.
Hold on. I may not have this.
All right, Lord. Let's take a break.
She thinks I'm a little lazy. I think she's a little crazy. We like some.
Good evening. Welcome to BET Tonight. I'm Tavis. Smiley. As always, delighted that you are with us. As the presidential election gets closer, black leaders are stepping up their effort, their crusade, shall we say, to get your vote for their particular candidate of choice that they'd like to see occupy the White House. But are they doing an effective job, or are black leaders more concerned about self than serving the needs of the public? Our guest tonight, Danny Bakewell, founder and president of the Brotherhood Crusade, an organization based here in LA, and of course the founder of the National Black United Fund. Pleased to be joined also by conservative talk show host, the Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson, founder and president of the Brotherhood Organization of New Destiny, otherwise known as BOND, and also the author of a new book, a provocative new book entitled From Rage to Responsibility. And of course, we thank Danny and Reverend Peterson for coming on to be with us tonight. I should tell you at the outset, I know both of these guys, and because their organizations have a similar name like Brotherhood, don't let the name fool you. Difference of opinions on these issues, and we're glad to have both of them here. Let me start with you, Danny. First of all, I wonder whether or not, in having these kinds of conversations, it is fair at the outset. It almost seems to me that you're, how can I put this, casting aspersion on all black leaders when you raise a question about black leaders and black leadership rather than black individuals who lead certain organizations. But everybody seems to always take a swipe at black leadership with this one broad brush.
Well, they do, and it sort of makes it suggests that we all should be monolithic in our approach to the problems that exist in our community, which is not true. We have diversity of opinion, we have diversity of approach, we have diversity in style, and I think that's wholesome, and I think it generates a fundamental kind of nourishing and energy for us to get progress in our communities.
Reverend Peterson, it is, and let me just set this off right quick. It is typically persons of your particular ideology, those who are more conservative, who want to take these swipes at black leaders. If I had a dime right now for every book that's on the shelf right now, including yours, but every book that's written by a so-called black conservative that's taking a swipe at black leadership, I'd be an independently wealthy man. Why is it that some who happen to be black, and Danny's right that we all have different styles, but why is it that those who are of a particular conservative ideology tend to more often than not take a swipe at black leadership in a very liberal, excuse the word, in a very liberal sort of way?
Well, you know, at Bond, we're rebuilding the family by rebuilding the man. Excuse me. And the problem with so-called black leadership is that they abuse black people for their own personal gain. People like Jesse Jackson and Maxine Waters, the NAACP, Louis Farrakhan, and Black Caucus and others, they have deliberately kept blacks down in order to gain power and wealth. And I used to be a liberal. I used to think the same way. I was controlled by these people. And instead of becoming a man, instead of becoming free, I got worse in life. And when I realized that they had lied to me by keeping me angry and demoralizing me, I overcame it. And as a result of overcoming that, I don't have a leader over me. I don't need no man and no woman to lead me. It should be an insult to black people, and especially black men, to put anyone else over them as a leader.
Speaking of insults, I cannot imagine that Louis Farrakhan, Minister Louis Farrakhan, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, those names, those persons you just listed by name, I cannot imagine if they're watching this program, and indeed they do, and have been on this program, of course, any number of times, I cannot imagine that they would not be insulted by your statement, particularly the part where you say that you believe these leaders have deliberately held black folk down for power and for monetary and personal gain. That's more than provocative. That's ugly.
Let me give you examples. Let's take the public school system for an example. These people encourage black families to send their children to the public school system, and we all know that it's screwed up. It's not about academics. It's about social welfare or social services. But yet they send their own children to private schools. The second thing, we all know that it takes a father and a mother to raise children, and yet they do everything they can to get the government to raise the children for the black families. I mean, if that's not hypocrisy, if that's not deliberate, then what is?
Danny?
I think it's unfortunately, Reverend, in all due respect, I think it's ludicrous for you to make those kinds of accusations. And I think it's demeaning to us as a people that you cannot raise your own light without trying to dim someone else's light. We've got to get beyond that. To say Reverend Jackson, Congresswoman Waters, myself, Louis Farrakhan are conspiring, which is the general fix that you put on it, to keep black people down, there's no evidence of that. One of the things that I think everybody is advocating for is a better quality of life for all of us as African Americans. And in order to do that, one of the things that you have to do is make sure that you are operating above the fray. There's no way that you can diminish the masses of black people and rise yourself.
Well, Daddy, who is leading these black leaders who are trying to lead other people? They don't have anyone over them. And if they can make it without having a leader, why can't rest of black Americans
but all of these people
make it without having a leader?
All of these people are leaders of today, and there have been others that have gone before us who have laid the foundation.
What's wrong with black men that they need another man over them to lead them?
It's not a
That tells me
suggestion.
that they got some type of problem.
It is not a suggestion that black men cannot independently stand up. But I think leadership does have to have an example, and I think many of the people that you're talking about are constantly setting an example. I mean, look at the things that we're doing. Reverend Jackson has certainly set precedents throughout this country in terms of running for president, in terms of making, or if he were anything other than a black man, he would be president of the United States today.
That's good for Jesse Jackson, but it's not good for an average black man. Let me ask you this, Danny. Is it not difficult at best to explain, though, how many conservatives, many of them, as you know, make this point, and they're right about this, I think. If you look at the polls, the surveys, and the studies, there are any number of issues, 3 of them come to mind immediately, where the polls at least seem to indicate that there is a disparate view, there is a distinction to be made between where black leaders stand on certain issues and where black people stand on certain issues. For example, the issue of school choice. Because black folk want an education, a quality education for their kids like everybody else, you see now a divide on the black leaders say no on school choice. Indeed, I feel the same way. But black people are increasingly, in poll by poll, being down with the school choice movement on the death penalty, because we are the disproportionate victims of violent crime. A lot of black folk, you know, becoming more and more, taking a second look at the death penalty and thinking, you know, if they mess with me, let's fry them. Gun control. Because, again, so many guns are being used in our community. I mean, I could go on, but there are at least 3 or 4 issues where there seems to be a divide between black leadership and black people, and that's the stuff they say that y'all aren't representing black people.
But it's not a divide, it's just a diversity of opinion.
Right.
I mean, it's the reality of life is that there are people who are for vouchers, who are voting their reality in terms of their children going to school, and that's what they should do. But that does not mean that those of us who believe that vouchers, the thing that I think many of us are advocating, is that the reason that you have to be careful about vouchers is that it will begin to proliferate schools that do not have accreditation, that do not have qualified teachers.
That's not true.
And it will, well, wait a minute, it will move the masses of black people in a position that will not allow the quality of education to be consistent across the board for our next generation. The issue is you can't abort the present system. I think what many of us are saying, if we put the proper priority and put the proper resources into the public education system, we can have a system that works.
Let me break right quick. We'll come back and continue. I don't want to interrupt this, but got to pay some bills. We'll come back, and I want to continue this run, if I can use that phrase, on these issues: school choice, the death penalty, gun control. And let's see where black America ought to be on these issues and why this divide exists. We'll continue that in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back to BET Tonight. I'm Tavis. Smiley, glad you're with us. One of our guests you see, Reverend Jesse Peterson, speaking on screen there, at least about what his views are when it comes to black leadership. An awfully tough subject to get your arms around. When you talk about black leadership, it's this big, huge conglomerate of leaders that we seem to get see swiped at all the time. But I digress on that point. Back to the issue we were talking before the break about school choice and the death penalty and gun control. Without having to dissect, I guess, each one of these, what do you think is the primary reason, Reverend Peterson, for this divide, at least in the polls, between where black leaders stand and where the polls indicate that the African-American community might be going?
I work with a lot of families and a lot of children who are coming out of high school. They can't read, they can't write, they can't prepare for the world, but they know how to have sex. They know how to have sex with boys on boys, girls on girls. And a lot of families are fed up with that. They'll put their children into these schools to be educated. And they see that their so-called leaders are pushing these public school systems, but yet they're not, you know, encouraging their own children. So now they're saying enough is enough and we're not going to take it anymore. And the one thing that school vouchers would do, it would challenge the public school system either to come up in academics and do the right thing, or they would go out of business. but it was also encourage children to read and write and realize that this is a great country, and in this country you can do what you want. And demagogues like Jesse Jackson and others have been lying to them. They won't fall for that anymore.
I wonder, Danny, both of you represent organizations. I made a little joke at the outset of the program that you both have the word brotherhood in the name of your organizations. I wonder how effective you think black leaders in the grassroots arena are these days. I mean, when you look at these issues, we can talk about black leadership on any number of levels, but the level that's closest to the folk on the streets, as you both know, are the folk who are leading, as both of you are, on the grassroots level. I wonder how effective you think grassroots leadership in our community is or can be in this new millennium.
Well, one of the things I think that has to happen is that I do think that we have to focus. As you know, the Brotherhood Crusade is about self-help. It's about independence. We don't get federal funds. We believe that we have to build an institution that we as black people can support ourselves. We have to be willing to do for ourselves what it's clear other people are not willing to do for us. So we don't vary in opinion on that. But the reality of life is that leadership is not a popularity contest. We've got to do things that are provocative, that really moves people in mass in certain areas. There is no question that there are individual people who will do well, but it doesn't matter whether George Bush is president or whether Al Gore is president. What we do have to look to is the masses of people. We've got to create systems. First of all, we're dealing in a country that is overwhelmingly wealthy. Today there's more prosperity in the country than there ever is in history. But we've got people on corners with no jobs. When you see black people on a corner and they're not working, they call them gang members, but they don't have a job in many instances. We've got to try to cure that. We've got to get to the root of the problem so that we can provide employment for every single person around.
Reverend Peterson, I wonder whether or not you are at all bothered by the fact, and this is my own vantage point in the prism through which I look. I think Danny makes a good point that while we are in this election talking primarily, and we were talking in the commercial break, whoever wins is going to come down, I think, to who America most believes ultimately on how we're going to spend this surplus. Everybody knows we got a surplus. Absolutely. The question is, how do we spend it? Are you at all bothered, as I am, that when you hear these candidates, Gore and Bush, quite frankly, talking about how we're going to spend this surplus, that people of color, namely African Americans, at least by my judgment, are not often enough mentioned in that discussion about how this surplus gets spent? You know, even though we lag behind in every economic category.
I'm not really bothered about that because the government has already given black people too much. But what I'm bothered,
say that again.
The government has already given black people too much. But what I am bothered about is that there is a possibility, a slight chance, that Al Gore will become next president of these United States of America. And if that should happen, it is over for this country. Because as we all know, Bill Clinton has done a good job in demoralizing this country, and especially black Americans. What we need, Tavis, is for fathers to come back into the home and guide their families in the right way to go. We don't need somebody outside the home to be the leaders. We need good examples, of course, but we need fathers to be that good example.
Speaking of, let me ask you,
don't have that.
Speaking of demoralizing, Danny, I wonder if Reverend Peterson might be right, and he ain't the first person, excuse my English, to make this point, that the real problem with the black community is that we have in fact been demoralized and been disenfranchised because we have allowed and expected, for that matter, government to do too much for us. You buy that argument?
Well, I don't necessarily buy that argument. I do believe that, you know, history has sort of put us in some very difficult places. I mean, if you go back to the 50s, we had an economy going on in our community that was second to none. I mean, black people did business with black people. We were all dependent on each other, and we did fairly well. The system wasn't open, so what happened was we began to fight for integration. We did not begin to fight for independence. And
that sounds like a swipe at integration.
Well, to some extent, no, it wasn't a bad thing in the sense of we want to have options, but it was a bad thing in the sense that we walked past a black hamburger place to go spend our money with McDonald's. We put small businesses out of business in order to go eat at Walgreens. So, but it has taken us a while to recognize that the salvation of us as a people was economic independence.
Let me ask you a question first, Reverend Peterson. I thought I heard you say while Danny was talking that you think integration is a bad thing.
Forced integration is, yes.
That sounds to me, I'm trying to juxtapose how a black conservative, I've never heard a black conservative argue to me that, you know, that they believe that integration was a bad thing, and I'm unclear why you feel that.
Forced integration was, what they needed to do was to change the laws so that we would all be governed by the same laws, and then we would have come together based on character. based on who we want to be with, but not by force. And Danny is right. Just before the civil rights movement, blacks were doing well. The laws were against them, but yet we were doing well. We had family. We had a sense of respect for one another. We loved our country. We did what was right. But the laws, the civil rights movement started. All of that changed. The government came in. One example of immorality in the black community. There was a time when a black woman had a baby out of wedlock. It was an embarrassment to the family. She would have to go in hiding. And because of the government taking over, now it is celebrated.
But that's not just true of the black community.
But we're talking about
there's too much out of it. But the point is, though, that I get the sense sometimes that black conservatives want to take these issues and act as if they are unique specifically to the African American community. There's too much out of wedlock pregnancy.
But in our community, it's more so. Hold on, Danny. Hold on, Danny.
He becomes a poster child for white people to lean on. He becomes a poster child for white people to lean on to say, you see, that's the way they feel about their own. I don't have to say it. Let's just get rid of it.
One second. Take a break. You know how this works. Got to pay these bills around here. We'll take a break, come back, continue our conversation. When we come back, I specifically want to ask both of our guests whether or not they think that this distinction, this difference of opinion, as you see displayed here tonight, is a difference of opinion in our community the right way to be going at a time when it seems that all of us ought to be coming together, try to advance one agenda. We'll talk about it. Log on to BT.com. Tell us what you think about black leadership, and we're back in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back to the program. Glad you're with us. You made the point earlier, Danny, in the program that the black community is not a monolith, and I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing. But as we continue to try to advance in this new millennium, our numbers are shrinking, says the census. Our political clout may be diminishing. Now more than ever, I think one can make the argument that we ought to be on one page, and yet we seem now to celebrate this divergent thinking in our community. Am I missing something here?
No, you're not missing something. I think there was a saying out of the 60s when we had the Black Congress where they said, we don't all have to look alike and dress alike to be for the same cause. And I think that's what we're talking about. One of the things that really concerns me about what Reverend Peterson is saying is that you can advocate for strong black men. You can advocate for independent households. You can advocate for values in the home and in the community without putting down black leaders who are advocating for a much larger kind of inclusive tent for everybody to get in. And what he does is he becomes, as I said earlier, he becomes sort of the poster boy for white folk to say, you see, that's how they really feel, and we should follow men like this. So they want to raise Reverend Peterson up to a level, quite honestly, which I don't think he could perform at. Because if you look at what Reverend Peterson has done in terms of building institutions, and I don't mean him particularly, I'm just talking about these conservatives. These conservatives, they're great mouthpieces, but they're not developing institutions that really affect the masses of black people in our community.
First of all, Danny has no idea what he's talking about when he's talking about me in that way, but that's fine. Secondly, it is time that black people start thinking for themselves. Black people, not all of course, but most think in groups. They think in packs, and that's why they're all in the same hole. They're all suffering. They're all having the same problem because they think alike. We must be free thinkers. We have sense enough to know what is right and what is wrong. The second point that in America, America is a country where Americans represent each other. And when I vote or when I want someone to represent me, it doesn't matter what color that person is, whether they're male or female. Do they represent the same character I represent?
I got to break in 20 seconds. Literally, you don't think that an African-American person can represent African-American people better, understanding their interests, their struggles,
I mean, if it's a black person who have character, but most of the blacks who are representing us now lack character. But we need black and white to do it.
I got a break. We'll come back in just a moment. You're watching BET Tonight. Stay where you are. Welcome back to the program. Almost out of time. Again, the book From Rage to Responsibility by Jesse Lee Peterson. Danny Bakewell, of course, for the Brotherhood Crusade. You have your big dinner here every year.
Yeah.
November the
9th. Right. Honoring Gerald Busby, who's the former chairman of Motown.
You want to get involved in Danny's dinner? It's a good dinner, November 9th, called the Brotherhood Crusade if you're in the greater LA area. 30 seconds apiece. No matter what you think of black leadership, I would like to think that ultimately we want to improve black leadership for black people and be about public service and not self-service. How do we improve black leadership, Reverend?
We need to vote them out, and we need to vote in people that are going to do the right thing, people who stand for truth and not build a career based on racism. Jesse Jackson and others have used racism to build a career, and they have kept blacks down. We need to change that.
Danny, last word.
I think we have to be respectful of black leadership. We have to accept diversity of opinion. We have to make sure that we allow there to be even a thought like yours, Reverend, even a thought like yours. But the reality is, I think black leadership has to go on. It has to continue to be provocative. It has to shake the tree. It has to make the point. And we have to recognize that we're not monolithic in our opinion.
I thank Danny. I thank the Reverend for coming on. Hope you enjoyed the program. You know we're back tomorrow night. Until then, thanks for watching. And as always, keep the faith.
A whole lot of mess going on in the world to this day. You just caught JLP on BET tonight with Tavis, Smiley, and some light-skinned black guy from NAACP or something. I'm not sure. This is the end of hour one of the Jesse Lee Peterson Show. It is Wednesday, February 19th, AD 2025. We will be right back for hour two. Hang tight, callers. There is one line open. You can call in right now during Hake News, Not Fake News. And JLP ought to be right back to your calls. Complicated business, folks. Trump and RFK Jr. targeting the psychiatric medications, especially with regards to children, you know, these antidepressants and mood disorder things. It's a big mess. RFK Jr., Make America Healthy Again, said that those antidepressant and mood disorder meds are a threat, might pose a threat, pardon me, I spit, to kids. You know, he talked about how these school shootings are oftentimes linked to antidepressants and stuff like that, SSRIs. They say that there's no evidence of that. I don't know about that, but I'll tell you more about that on the Hake Report. But we got to wrap things up to get into hour two. I'm James Hake, now back to the Jesse Lee Peterson Show, hour two.
Got to stand up strong, think the truth about themselves, to understand what went wrong. I know we can find a way. I know we can find a way. I know we can find a way to stand up, stand up.
Welcome back to Hannity and Combs. I'm Sean Hannity. It's a twisted tale of rappers, drugs, and politics. A former drug officer alleges that a federal investigation into a Houston rap recording label was shelved when California Congresswoman Maxine Waters intervened, citing racism and harassment. The record label, Rap-A-Lot, is scheduled to release a CD this week that contains lyrics that brag about the derailed investigation. Company founder James A. Prince has been under investigation since 1988 when large quantities of cocaine were found in one of the cars for sale on his used car lot. Mr. Prince was not driving the car at the time. Officials at the Drug Enforcement Agency say the investigation is still pending. So did Congresswoman Waters and the Justice Department give the axe to a legitimate investigation? And why is a California Congresswoman getting her hands dirty with a drug investigation in Texas? Joining us from Los Angeles, the Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson. He's the founder of the group Bond, Brotherhood Organization of a New Destiny. Also, his terrific new book, author of Rage and Responsibility. And in Washington, criminal defense attorney, our good friend Keith Waters, is with us. Now, what bothers me here is, why would a congresswoman get involved in a legal matter like this? Doesn't that disturb you somewhat, Keith, just off the top?
Absolutely not. She received complaints of police brutality and racism against these individuals. Right. And I think it's incumbent upon any member of Congress to investigate wrongdoing, whatever it is.
So here it is. A congresswoman gets involved in an investigation where somebody's with drug allegation is made. She stops the investigation. And
she didn't stop the investigation,
Well,
Sean.
clearly she did.
No, that's your assumption.
Wait a minute. Let me read from the Dallas Morning News. Quote, a federal drug investigation of a Houston rap recording label and its associates was frozen after a prominent California congresswoman intervened on behalf of the label's founder with top administration officials.
That's like saying
case investigators
I became
are
a drug addict. That one doesn't necessarily follow, Sean. You know better than that.
All right, now let's get back to my point, because you were wrong about that. Now, and this is very important. So then this guy, so she intervenes, and I'll throw this to Jesse, stops the investigation, and then these guys come out with a new rap CD that names the name of the DEA investigators, putting their lives at risk, and rips them and talks about, quote, a mafia bond. What are your thoughts, Jesse?
Well, Sean, we need to establish that Maxine Waters is a racist demigod. This is the same woman that danced in the streets with the Crips and the Blood during the last LA riot, singing "No Justice, No Peace." Maxine Waters has built a career on the word racism. She has defended some of the worst people in the black community that I've ever seen. She's a lowlife. And it's not surprising to me at all that she would defend someone like James Prince. This is common. This is typical. And another thing about Maxine, she's using these people to promote her own agenda. We must realize that the election time is coming up. The liberal, elite, racist Democrats are desperate.
Jesse Lee, her seat is not in jeopardy.
Anything to get power.
Jesse Lee, it's Alan. Welcome back to the show. Her seat is not in jeopardy, number one. Number two, in that same Dallas Morning News article.
But the Democratic Party is.
The Democratic Party is not in jeopardy. Let me put a quote from the DEA agent on the case in the same Dallas Morning News article, Ernest L. Howard, who says it's an active investigation still going on. The investigation has not been stopped. I'm the agent in charge of the whole division. I'm the guy who would know. So the investigation hasn't been stopped.
But Alan, I read it. Alan,
not only that, I think for him to get up there.
I read the Dallas
one at a time, please. One at a time. Hold on, Keith. Let Jesse Lee speak, and then Keith, you can respond. Jesse Lee, go ahead. Go ahead, sir, and then Keith can respond.
The Dallas Morning News, and I read the article as well, said that the investigation is over. And it is abnormal that a congresswoman and her husband, who is the former ambassador of Bahamas, get involved with a case like this. It is more to it than what meets the eye. Maxine Waters, let me tell you this. Well, James Prince owned a recording company that has produced some of the worst rappers.
Well, that's a different. That's a free speech issue. You may not like his music. Hold on, Reverend. Let me give Keith Waters.
Alan.
Reverend.
They produce songs like "Kill a Cop."
Reverend, you're getting off topic. We can talk about the free speech issue of what they put out. Let me give Keith Waters a chance to respond to what you said just a moment ago. Keith, go ahead.
Well, first of all, I think he needs to apologize to the Congresswoman. He cannot even hold a candle to her. She's a woman of integrity and great responsibility.
Maxine Waters is a wicked woman, Keith.
I didn't interrupt you, sir. No, please. The DEA administrator has issued a statement saying that no pressure was put on anybody to stop that investigation. The real issue here is why the Congresswoman got involved is because the lead agent had been involved in killing six individuals. He was investigated. Apparently,
gentlemen, we got to take a break.
But six people died in his hands.
Hang on, Jesse. Hang on, guys, hang on. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll continue this on the other side of the break as Hannity and Combs continues. We're glad you're with us. Please stay tuned.
Welcome back to Hannity and Combs. I'm Alan Combs. About trying to influence this investigation, which you're accusing Maxine Waters of. Jesse Lee Peterson, let me give you another quote from the Dallas Morning News story, which is from the DEA Administrator Donnie Marshall, who says, nobody ever put any political pressure on me to close down this investigation, nor did I put any pressure on Mr. Howard. And Mr. Howard, the DEA investigator on the scene, says years of investigating this guy, James Prince, who you mentioned, failed to produce any concrete evidence to prosecute him.
Well, Alan, answer this for me. When they went to question James Prince, the DA went to question him, Maxine Waters, her husband, who was a former representative for the Bahamas, went into that session, ambassador of the Bahamas, went into that session. Is it common for that kind of thing to happen?
I have no idea whether it's common or not. The point
Maxine Waters only went there to influence that in the manner that she wanted to go.
The key players here say there was no influence. The key players say the investigation is going on. So whatever influence you're alleging took place on the part of Maxine Waters didn't, according to the DEA agents, participate.
Right, Jesse, go ahead.
Also, once Maxine Waters stepped in, the primary investigator was ordered to do desk work instead of investigating this case because of Maxine Waters.
Keith, look, I go back to the lead of the story because obviously some people didn't get this. It's very clear. A federal drug investigation of a Houston rap recording label and its associates was frozen after a prominent California congressman intervened on behalf of the label's founder with top Clinton administration officials, and case investigators are quoted as telling this paper. So that's the issue here. And it's clear from her letter to the Justice Department.
She doesn't have the power to freeze investigation. It's a separate branch of government, Sean. You know that. She's a member of Congress. She has no control over DEA or the Department of Justice. They make independent decisions of Congress.
She intervened on behalf of them, and as a result of her intervening and getting in the way, she
has the right to do it. That's what members of Congress do every day. That's what your friend Bob Barr does all the time. Writes to Janet Rito, you want to investigate Clinton for this.
Jesse?
Investigate that.
According to the report, Maxine Waters wrote Janet Rito a letter indicating that this was a race issue, and it was because of that Janet Rito called off his aide. And Maxine Waters has built. Hold on, Keith. Maxine Waters has built a career on racism. She even accused the FBI of bringing in drugs into the black community.
She received a complaint of police brutality and racist epithets directed at these individuals. She has a right as a member of Congress to make an inquiry whether these officers are breaking the law by violating the civil rights of these individuals.
We only have a moment.
They made their investigation.
This is not let me ask you one quick question. We have a moment left. Is it conceivable that because they use lyrics mentioning DEA agents, the DEA decided they wanted to go after this guy because they didn't like the content of what he was putting out on his record label? Is that conceivable?
Well, Sean,
absolutely. I think it's
Jesse Lee.
Anything is possible, but in this case, issue is used to promote Maxine Waters and to promote her career.
Thank you very much, Jesse Lee. Thank you very much, Keith Waters. That's our show for tonight on Fox News.
In Georgia this week, state lawmakers narrowly approved a proposed constitutional amendment to ban same-sex marriages. Now, this issue has teetered back and forth for weeks and has actually led to heated protests on both sides of the issue. But it was a group of African-American lawmakers that gave the ban supporters the critical votes it needed. Now, this story caught our attention because this is a group of people who know firsthand what it means to fight for basic civil rights, and it raises an interesting question. Are gay rights civil rights? Joining us for both sides of that issue, the Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson, the author of Scam, How the Black Leadership Exploits Black America, and theologian and writer, the Reverend Byron Williams. Thank you very much, both of you, for being with us. Reverend Peterson, I want to start with you. You say flat out, homosexuality is not the same thing. Homosexual marriage is not the same thing as civil rights. You, one of the leaders in the civil rights, the modern day civil rights movement, how is it that you can say that?
I grew up on a plantation in Alabama at a time when the laws were against black Americans, and the laws were against blacks because of our color, not because of who we had sex with. And the civil rights movement or the civil rights struggle was about equal access and protection under the law. Homosexuality is not about love, it's not about family, it's not about marriage, it's not about civil rights, it's about sex. During the civil rights movement, no one cared who we had sex with. They were concerned about our color. I just think it's a disgrace that once again homosexuals are trying to use black Americans in order to further their own agenda. It's a disgrace to blacks and whites who have died so that we can be free.
Reverend Williams, when these 29 pastors in the state of Georgia actually came out for a constitutional ban, you called it an orgy of nonsense. You said that they arrogantly stood for self-appointed gatekeepers to freedom and equality. Those are fighting words, and I assume they apply to Reverend Peterson in your case.
Well, I don't know who they apply to. I mean, I write a syndicated column, and that's just one issue that I picked out that reaches 500,000 people every week. But the fact is this, the civil rights movement, and I think I agree with Reverend Peterson to the extent that we should all not be intellectually lazy and just make, just blanket comparisons in terms of comparing suffering. But at the same time, the civil rights movement didn't just improve conditions for African Americans, it made America better. Every American is an heir to the civil rights movement, if not by birth, then by legal inheritance, because the mantra of the civil rights movement challenged the mantra of America. Are we living out the Jeffersonian creed that all are indeed created equal? To that extent, you have a number of individuals who, everyone's being taxed, but some individuals are denied certain rights and privileges by the government. Now, correct me if history serves me correctly, the last time we had a debate about that, Washington, D.C. notwithstanding, someone lost a bunch of tea and a war soon followed. So this is really fundamentally against what it means to be an American.
Well, I disagree with Reverend William in that homosexuals have the right to have a legal binding contract. If they want whomever to have access to their property or rights to their medical situation, they can go to a lawyer and get a legal contract. And unless they come out and say that they are homosexuals, they are not discriminated against. And also I want to add that over the last 15 years or so, I've counseled with men and women who have overcome homosexuality and became heterosexual. And I've also seen heterosexuals become homosexuals. I've never seen a black person turn white or white turn black, even though Michael Jackson tried it. It didn't even work for him.
Personally, I've never seen a homosexual become heterosexual, but I'm going to give this one to you, Byron Williams.
Yeah, I have.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm going to let you respond to that. Well, he's saying that a black person doesn't become a white person. A homosexual can, in fact, become a heterosexual, and yet he's arguing that that the equal access laws do not apply when it comes to gay unions when they have other legal alternatives.
Oh, well, first of all, those legal alternatives mean, as he said, going to an attorney, spending additional resources. The fact of the matter is, the preamble of the United States states very clearly, we the people. Now, the challenge of America has always been, we has not always meant we. We didn't mean we for African Americans.
Reverend William, I'd like to ask you a quick question.
I'm trying to finish my question. No, let me finish and I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. Let me finish my statement,
real
please.
Real fast, Reverend.
I'll just finish. Let me finish, please. We does not mean we. So the fact of the matter is, you cannot tax certain people in the government and deny the rights of others. This is not a church issue. This is an American issue, and it's just that clear.
What it is, Reverend, it's a moral issue. I want to ask, there is a standard that has been set by this country, and that standard is set up in order to stabilize the country. And the standard is a marriage is between one man, one woman. And when you have that standard, you're able to have a family and stabilize society. If you should break that standard, Reverend, don't you understand that we will have chaos in this country?
Well, I don't know if we have chaos. We had 3,000 plus marriages in San Francisco, and the only thing that I noticed was the gas prices went up. Now, unless you think the gay and lesbian community is just
all right, there we digress. Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson, Reverend Byron Williams, this is something that you guys may have to finish off camera, but I think both of you really represented both your views well. And this debate, indeed, could come down to what African-American churches are saying across the country. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Will be here to tell us why he's given up the day of repudiation of Jesse Jackson. And later, the man who won't be president is again charging voter fraud in Ohio. Is this John Kerry's first move towards another campaign, or is he just a sore loser? Straight ahead.
Well, we have some bad news for you. For the first time in 9 years, it's not happening. Joining us to explain why, the founder of the Day of Repudiation, Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson, and hear from the Center for Constitutional Rights, Ron Daniels. Now, Jesse Lee, if Jesse Jackson is no longer worth your time, why are you even bothering to come here? And I'm sure you'll say some nasty things about him. So why even bother showing up to talk about him?
I'm going to speak the truth about him. We decided not to hold the National Day of Repudiation of Jesse Jackson on Dr. King's birthday anymore because he doesn't have the same power or ability to intimidate corporate America and brainwash black Americans. He had his so-called Wall Street Project conference last week, and Wall Street refused to allow him to have the conference on the floor. They didn't make a donation to him. Last time they made something like $100,000 donation to Jesse Jackson because they were afraid that he would accuse them of being racist.
Right, so Jesse,
this time they didn't do it.
So
so we didn't want to waste our time with him anymore.
So you are discontinuing, as of this moment, you will no longer come on this show to badmouth Jesse Jackson because he's not worth your time. Is that correct?
Well, I would no longer hold the National Day of Repudiation, but I would continue to expose Jesse Jackson as I've done in my book, Scam, How the Black Leadership Exploits Black Americans. We still have to keep up with him. He's a desperate old man. You saw a couple weeks ago, Alan. Hey, Alan, you saw a couple weeks ago, he was down in Ohio trying to stir up some hatred there. That did not work for him. He held a demonstration in front of the White House.
I'm so glad you have stopped repudiating him. Ron Daniels, Jesse Lee Peterson says about blacks, most have become morally bankrupt. He also says blacks are suffering because of their lack of moral character. That's what Jesse Lee Peterson says about African Americans.
Well, first of all, let me just say that Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson has stopped his campaign of repudiation because he's failed. He has no capacity to repudiate Jesse Jackson and probably anybody else who has any standing and stature in black America and this country. Reverend Jackson recently had his Wall Street project. It's an important project. Blacks help.
Nobody showed up, Ron.
People help. Well, I listened to you. Would you be kind
enough to listen to me? They had to have it in a hotel.
Hold on, Jesse Lee.
They were not allowed to have it on the floor.
And now Reverend Jackson is saying we ought to have an opportunity to have access to Wall Street.
Jesse Lee, why do you say blacks are suffering because of their lack of moral character? Is that your view of blacks? They lack moral character? It's in your press release.
Alan, in Dr. King's dream speech, I Have a Dream, he said that blacks should not allow themselves to become bitter and angry, and that they should fight a physical battle with soul battle.
You're not answering my question.
What he meant is that blacks should not allow themselves to be controlled by what they see around them. But Jesse Jackson and others took his message and they perverted it by accusing white Americans of being racist, and now most black people, not all, but most are very racist and angry toward white Americans. 70% of out-of-wedlock birth. Black-on-black crime is out of control.
These are issues that Jesse Jackson and others speak to. Well, I really haven't had an opportunity to speak. He's not been operating the conversation.
Has Jesse Jackson lost his moral authority?
He has certainly not lost his
Even when he had the affair and had the child out of wedlock?
Well, I can't think of anything more immoral than a president going off to war claiming there's weapons of mass destruction.
I asked you about Jesse Jackson. We're talking about Jesse Jackson.
Did
Jesse Jackson lose any moral authority?
No, I don't think he lost any moral authority. Well, the question is not his personal...
Is he a hypocrite?
No, he's not a hypocrite.
No.
He came before the people.
How can you be a minister?
He spoke and he said what his problem was, and he went on.
What did he say about his problem?
Not a perfect servant, a public servant. And on this day, Martin Luther King, if he were alive, would in fact be doing the same kind of things that Jesse Jackson has been doing, including marching on Wall Street to get black people access to wealth.
Criticize Jesse Jackson?
Well, he's open to anybody can criticize Jesse Jackson that wants to, including Reverend Jesse Peterson, who needs to be repudiated for being a failure because he cannot dent Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson.
Hang on, Jesse. How could you say he's a failure? I know the group bond. I know the work. Jesse has devoted his adult life to building homes and giving opportunity and finding work and developing skills for young African-American men. Is that true, Jesse?
Yes, sir.
How's he a failure?
And we've done it without the help of the government.
His mission has been to debunk and destroy Jesse Jackson.
You don't know anything about the organization. I know he has a house for young African-American men that need help, doesn't he?
Hoorah. I'm glad he has that.
Why don't you donate to it?
Well, I could possibly do that. But the point is, his mission has been to be a poison pen to debunk Reverend Jesse Jackson, and he's been a failure at that. And he has failed because Jesse Jackson has a solid record of accomplishment in working on public policy on a massive scale in the United States of America.
We have exposed Jesse Jackson
recently spoke to hundreds of people in Jonesboro.
Hold on,
You can't speak to 15 or 20.
We have exposed Jesse Jackson. Let me remind you, Jesse Jackson called himself a reverend, yet he cheats on his wife, has a baby with this woman, went to the White House under the pretense of Councilman Bill Clinton, who cheated on his wife. I believe they gave each other the high five. And yet, Jesse Jackson had the nerve to accuse white Americans of being racist.
We got to run, but Jesse Lee,
in nature.
I want to thank you for coming here to not any longer repudiate Jesse Jackson. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, Alan.
Ron Daniels, thank you very much.
Good evening, I'm Pat Buchanan sitting in for Joe. Bill Cosby used harsh language at an NAACP event in May, criticizing African Americans for not living up to the legacy of the civil rights movement. Last night, Cosby defended himself from criticism that he had aired his community's dirty laundry for all the world to see. Here he is.
Dirty laundry. Hey man, let me tell you something. Your dirty laundry gets out of school at 2:30 every day. It's cursing and it's calling each other niggas as they walk up and down the street. They think they're hip. They can't read, they can't write.
Cosby's using tough love to make his point, but is it too tough? Is it fair? And will it work? Here now, the Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson, author of Scam, How the Black Leadership Exploits Black America, and Liz Brown, an attorney and radio talk show host at WGNU in St. Louis, Missouri. Let me start with you, Liz. Isn't it about time that some folks said the harsh, tough, true things that Bill is saying to the community?
First of all, I would take exception to any truth that is coming from the words of Bill Cosby. It is always easy in America for someone to hop up on the backs of African people and say bad things about them and to embrace that as truth. No, it's not right, because it's not true. It's a vulgar lie.
But isn't it time, though? Liz, take a look at the statistics in the community. You know them as well as I do. 60%, 70% born out of wedlock in the inner city, 75% growing up without a father, 40% of young black males in the inner cities on probation, parole, or in prison. And what Cosby is saying is, look, it's time to clean up our own act and time to stop blaming Whitey.
Bill Cosby is not saying any of those things. What he is saying is what America has been saying about African people for the last 200 years, that everything, this is how you describe African people and the African community by the sum of the bad actions of a handful of few, and that's inaccurate. And it's always easy to hear people say something bad and untrue about the African community. It is no more accurate for Bill Cosby to define the African community by those actions than it is to define white children by the fact that 6 out of 7 times a drunk driver hits somebody, it's going to be a white male, or by all the white corporate crime. It is inaccurate to describe white children in that way, and it is inaccurate to describe African children in that way.
Jesse Lee Peterson, your response.
Thanks for having me on. Thanks for having me on, Pat. As you know, for the last 15 years or so, we have been saying the same thing. Bill Cosby is absolutely right. I've often said that most black Americans are not suffering due to racism, but they lack a moral character. Most blacks are immoral today, and that's why they are suffering. Black women between the ages of 20 to 30, those who are having babies, 85% of them are having them out of wedlock. I do a lot of work in the inner cities of Los Angeles, in the public school system and juvenile detention centers, and it's not uncommon to hear the word coming from these young black boys and girls. And there is no respect at all for the adults within the black community, and it's because the parents are not doing their jobs. The fathers are out screwing everybody and their mama, and the women are out trying to find other men, and the children are raising themselves, and they're out of control.
All right, Liz, let me just ask you, lay it out here. Look, there are some terrible problems, pandemic, in the African-American community. We all know that. You know it, I know it, we've all been talking about it. What Bill Cosby is saying is, look, it's time to stop blaming Whitey. We got to clean up our own act. Isn't that a message that needs to be heard?
Well, I'm certain that it is comfort to a number of white ears for people to hear that it is not white people's responsibility or problems or issues with regard to the community of African descent.
It's not white people's problem.
Wait a minute, and to suggest that all of a sudden now it's not white people's fault for the racism, for the institutional racism, and for the continuing assaults against African people. Of course there's racism.
White people are not making white people are not
people. So
Liz,
I'm sure this is comforting to many people to hear, to give people
let Jesse talk.
To say that it is not white people's fault.
Liz, white people are not causing boys and girls to go to beds and make babies out of wedlock.
Well,
they're not causing young black boys and girls to commit.
Liz, hold on. Out of the bedroom and deal with the real issues that are here.
All right, let's call it truce.
That are here are racism. That's the problem here in America.
Liz doesn't want.
Liz, we're going to let you talk about racism. Let Jesse Lee Peterson talk for about the next minute. Go ahead, Jesse.
Liz want to shout me down because she doesn't want the truth to get out. The one thing I do want to say, Pat, is that white America, there's this notion in the black community that white folks can't be honest about what is wrong with black people, and I say that's wrong. white Americans and blacks have a responsibility to tell the truth, because the truth is not a color, it's a character thing. And I think that white America has made a big mistake by allowing themselves to be intimidated by the NAACP, people like Liz, Jesse Jackson, and others. The truth should be able to come from anyone, because we're all going to suffer if we don't start dealing with the lack of morality within the black community.
All right, Liz, you're going to have the first shot as soon as we get back to respond to that. So everybody, you stay with us. We've got a lot more on Bill Cosby's contentious remarks, as you can see, right after the break. Plus, is Michael Moore's new movie he calls a documentary, a little more fiction than fact. We'll ask Newsweek's Michael Isikoff. Then, there's another tape of an LAPD cop hitting an aggressive suspect. But this time, were they really using excessive force? We'll ask an expert. You stay with us.
Dogs, water hoses that tear the bark off of trees, Emmett Till. And you're going to tell me you're going to drop out of school? You're going to tell me that you're going to steal from a store? These things have to be taken care of in the home.
All right, that was Bill Cosby last night at a conference with Jesse Jackson, appealing to the spirit of the civil rights movement. We're still talking about Cosby's controversial comments with the Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson and radio talk show host Liz Brown. Now, Liz, you heard that. That sounded, frankly, very eloquent to me. He was saying, look, there's a lot of folks went down to places like Mississippi 40 years ago. As a matter of fact, I was down there 40 years ago when those 4 folks were still buried in that dam. They made great risks. They made sacrifices. They've done it, and a lot of people are really throwing it all away, and they ought to shape up. Isn't that a message that a father of the community, which Cosby is, should be saying?
Well, if that's, I would call that not love. I would call that abuse. And the reason why I would call it abuse is because it is coming to the African community, a person who is clearly out of touch with the issues that are going on in the African community, and telling inaccurate and making inaccurate statements about the African community. It is an elitist, out of touch assessment of the community of African descent. It is no more accurate to define my community by the actions that he sees, the negative actions that he sees of a few, than it would be for someone else to define the white community by the Columbine gangbangers that went and shot up their school despite having everything in the world that there is to have. The fact of the matter is that what I understand why Bill Cosby wore dark glasses when he gave that speech at Push. I would have wanted to hide my face as well, to look at African
I got a question
people,
for
and
you.
to
We
say
heard
those
that.
things is absolutely outrageous and untrue.
Aren't you putting racial solidarity above truth?
What's the truth, Pat? What is the truth?
I mean, you think Bill Cosby, a man who has contributed to this community, this country, hold it, you asked me
things about people.
You asked me to tell you what I think is the truth. I'm telling you this. I think this is a man whose son was killed by some gangster.
A racist gangster.
Yes, okay, yes.
A racist gangster.
All right, a racist gangster, but who is trying to tell the truth to his community, to which he's contributed all his life, to which he is a credit. He's speaking hard, tough truths about reality.
You still haven't
Very
told me
few
what the
people
truths
are.
You still haven't told me
The
what
truth
the
is
truths are.
there's a horrendous social disaster going on in the African American community alongside the great successes like Liz Brown and other people on TV, and you know it as well as I do.
Well, because I'm on TV doesn't make me a success. There are millions of examples of success within the African community that Bill Cosby is ignoring and painting with a broad brush, simply because he said that when you see these children walking out of school, they can't read, they can't write, and they're saying these things. How do you know that? Why do you why do you paint an entire race of people with that?
All right, hold it, Liz. Let me answer. All right, now you've got your point. Here's one point. I grew up in D.C. Black schools, white schools were pretty good. As back in the 50s, they were segregated. They were desegregated, and they were integrated. And now, average black kids in these high schools in D.C. are reading at 8th grade levels. When they're seniors in high schools, there's violence in there. They poured money in there. they're failing. Isn't this something you and I both have to address? And Cosby, because he is a leader of the black community, is more concerned about it than almost anyone.
And again, that speaks to my point. For you to suggest that Bill Cosby is speaking to something and saying something that other people have not been addressing since the history of this country.
I haven't heard you address it.
African people have been addressing the inadequacies and the wrongness in the educational system from the moment that this country was formed. Bill Cosby isn't addressing anything that African people have not been addressing since day one. What he is doing differently, however, is he is attacking and assailing the entire race of black people to make that
All right, hold
point.
it, Liz. Look, I heard him. I don't think, hold it. He is praising the folks in the civil rights movement. He is talking about a segment. Yeah, but he's talking about
the only black people in the world. Those are the only black people that have contributed. For him to suggest that nobody else is contributing except for the people that gave it up in the 60s, and all African people didn't do that. Everybody contributes in different ways.
Liz, I've got to give Jesse Lee Peterson the final word. Jesse?
Pat, first of all, I want to say that we are Americans. We are not African American. We are Americans.
We're Africans.
Also, it brings a smile to my heart to hear Bill Cosby speak the truth so boldly. And I often think that Dr. King must be turning over in his grave, because he said that one day black Americans should be judged by the contents of character and not color. And unless we start dealing with the lack of character within the black community, Dr. King would have died in vain. We have to keep speaking up about what's going on. And the problem is not racism, but it is a lack of family and a lack of moral character within the black community. Our children are not being educated. Our children are not being educated because the parents are not watching over them.
All right, I've got to say, Liz, thank you very much for coming on. I'm sure there's going to be more comment on what Mr. Cosby had to say. Reverend Peterson, I'm sorry we had a brief break there. We couldn't get you on.
Yes.
Thanks for coming on, my friend.
First, it's called Kwanzaa, and promoters say it's a holiday about love and unity. Learn how it all started and why this man says its purpose is to divide people and not unite them.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this edition of the 700 Club. This December, millions of people in this nation are going to celebrate what seems to be a fraud. Christy?
Well, it's Kwanzaa. And what is Kwanzaa all about? Well, and why is it so appealing to so many people? Well, reporter Charlene Israel has the story.
Celebrations of Kwanzaa can be found in black communities all across the country. The African American holiday is observed for 7 days, from December 26th to January 1st, with 7 guiding principles for each day of the observance. Each evening during the festivities, family members light candles in a special candle holder and discuss one of the 7 principles, which include unity, purpose, and faith.
It means unity to me, for my heritage. It means join together, be united, love one another, love everyone. And for my heritage, it's just my background, something that I think that I should know about.
The holiday was the brainchild of a man named Ron Karenga, a former black militant, convicted felon, and Marxist. Karenga says he wanted a black alternative for Christmas, a holiday he felt exploited black Americans. Although there is no such African holiday, Karenga says he drew inspiration for his 1966 invention from the first fruit or harvest festivals celebrated throughout Africa. He wanted to create a holiday that would bring African Americans together in celebration of their black culture.
The purpose of Kwanzaa is to get involved and remember, reflect, reassess, and rededicate yourself to the struggle for freedom and liberation for African people. That's what it's really all about.
Although Kwanzaa has gained tremendous popularity in the black community as a celebration of family, community, and culture, some say it is not a legitimate holiday, but rather a tool to divide the races.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, when I first heard about Kwanzaa, I've been to Africa many, many, many times in a number of countries, and I had never heard of Kwanzaa, and it turns out there's not one African country that has ever celebrated anything called Kwanzaa. So we began to explore, where did it come from? Well, today we're going to tell you. Joining me now from Los Angeles is a man who says the growing popularity of Kwanzaa threatens to snuff out the true meaning of Christmas. Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson has written a book called Scam, How the Black Leadership Exploits Black America. And Reverend Peterson, I welcome you now to the 700 Club. Tell me, how did this Kwanzaa get started?
Well, good morning. It's an honor to be on with you. Thank you for having me. Well, first, as you said in the introduction, Kwanzaa is a lie. It's a made-up holiday. I've debated Ron Karenga, the socialist, Marxist, black racist, now professor at Cal State Long Beach here in Los Angeles, created this holiday because of his hatred toward Christianity and Jews. And Ron said that part of his motivation was his dislike, and that he was going to create this holiday during the Christmas season because that's when most people were celebrating. And the reason that he created, he called it an African holiday, because he felt that if he didn't, that most black people would not celebrate the holiday. And our purpose today is to get the message out that it's Merry Christmas and not Happy Kwanzaa.
Well, now, tell me more about this guy. I mean, you say he's a professor out there at Cal State in Long Beach. How did he, what was he before then?
Well, before then, he was a felon. He went to prison for 4 years for torturing a couple women who followed him back in the 60s. He was the head of a Marxist organization called United Slavery Organization, and back in the 60s, and along with the Black Panthers. But the issue is that during those days, this man was so radical and his organization was so violent against white Americans, against America, against what was right, that even the Black Panthers didn't get along with the United Slave Organization. They were headed up at UCLA for a while there. They were fighting over the Black Study program. They wanted to start a Black Study program back in the 60s. So they fought with the Black Panther Organization for the Black Study program, and they ended up murdering one another. He ended up in jail. He's now a felon and a professor at the University of Cal State Northridge.
Reverend Peterson, tell me, I've read some of the details of that torture. I think it'd be important to say these are two women who are his cult followers, and he suspected them of betraying him. What did he do to them specifically?
According to the report that I read, is that he tortured the women. He put soldering iron on them. He squeezed one woman's toes. He put some type of detergent or something down the throat of the woman. One of the ladies that he thought had turned against him, he tortured. He undressed them, made them undress at gunpoint, and tortured these women while laying naked on the floor there.
And he got 4 years in prison for that, right?
4 years in prison. And he got out, and now he's being honored. Can you imagine? He's been honored in America by celebrating this godless holiday called Kwanzaa.
Well, now, should Christians have anything to do with that?
Absolutely no. And as a matter of fact, according to the 7 principles of Kwanzaa, whites are not allowed. Jews are not allowed. It's a socialist idea. There is no mention of God. And when you read those 7 principles, as you can read them in my book, Scam, there is no mention of God. And there's a flag that they pledge allegiance to, the red, black, and green flag. And this flag is about shedding blood. Ron said that black people shedded blood in this country. They lost their land. And in order to regain the land, they're going to have to shed more blood. And so it's a violent idea. It's a separatist idea. And I can guarantee you, Mr. Robertson, if a white man had come up with the same idea and it was called European whatever, America would be up in arms about it. But because this man is black, he's allowed to get away with this racist, godless holiday.
Well, now, it's gotten such mainstream. I mean, the President of the United States, including George Bush, has paid lip service to Kwanzaa, as did Bill Clinton. What's the deal?
There's a double standard in America today. And that double standard is liberal, godless black folks are allowed to do and say what they want. And white folks are afraid of being called a racist. And I think that I was disgusted when Bill Clinton did it, but was not surprised. But when our great President Bush, a man that I believe God has given us so that we can turn this country around, when he celebrated this holiday, my heart was broken. Because black folks, not all, but most black people are already suffering because of too much government, corrupt black leaders, and most corrupt black preachers. The family is destroyed. The order of God is destroyed. And for President Bush to proclaim Kwanzaa a holiday that we should recognize is evil, for lack of a better word. He's promoting evil.
What response do you get when you tell people just what you're telling us on this program today?
Well, you know, not all, of course, but most black people are angry and they're racist toward white Americans. They've been brainwashed by the so-called black preachers and the black leadership like Jackson and others. When they hear me say it, they think that I'm a sellout, I'm an Uncle Tom. But there are black folks who love what's right. They love God. They are Americans, and they say right on to me. You know, it's the truth that's going to set us free. A lie will continue to divide us as a race and as a nation. And Christ came. I love Christ. He came so that he can unite us in spirit, one God. Kwanzaa and all this crap that Louis Farrakhan and others are putting out, we have to deal with it because the battle is a spiritual battle. It's not blacks against whites or whites against blacks. It's good versus evil. And at a time like Christmas, when we're celebrating Christ, Christians have to stand up and say no more, and especially black Christians, because we have suffered enough.
Reverend Peterson, thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, his book is called Scam. Scam. How the black leadership has been exploiting black America. I guess you can get this at, I think you can get it through CBN.com. Very interesting, very intriguing. Christy, did you ever hear all this stuff about Kwanzaa?
Well, I knew a little bit about it just because at the television station that I worked with before, actually it was a Christian station. They wanted to highlight Kwanzaa. And I researched it and I said, well, why are we going to highlight a thing that has nothing to do with Christ on Christmas. And, you know, I was listening to him, and I really appreciate Reverend Peterson, just because so oftentimes we as people tend to jump on the bandwagon without knowing what's in that bandwagon, without knowing what we're carrying. Well, you know?
Imagine you've got a Marxist, a guy who's to the left of the Black Panthers. He's more radical than the Panthers. He's put in prison for torturing 2 black women, obscene types of torture.
Black people aren't looking at that, Pat. They're looking at the fact that, you know, Kwanzaa is an event where we can be unified and we can come together as a family and as a culture. They're not looking at what the true meaning is and how it's excluding Christ, which is completely against what Christmas is about, the birth of our Lord Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Come on now.
All right. Well, let's keep going.
Well, I appreciate it, and I'm glad that Reverend Peterson put that book together.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Complicated business, folks. Complicated business. This is the end of hour 2 already of the Jesse Peterson Show. It is Wednesday, February 19th, AD 2025. Manhood Hour is coming up in the 3rd hour. Boys and girls, men and women. There is one line open. You can call in right now during Hake News, Not Fake News. And JLP ought to be back for Manhood Hour. By the way, ladies, Women's Forum is tomorrow night, 3rd Thursday of the month, 7 p.m. at Bond in Los Angeles. Rebuildingtheman.com/events. Immigration. The invasion is on a low point. It is going down. The Trump administration going down as in it's less than overwhelming than under the evil Biden administration. The Trump administration is cutting off legal services for unaccompanied alien so-called children. They call them migrant children. The latest in a series of actions stripping away so-called key resources for illegals. They call them immigrants in the United States. The Department of the Interior sent the order to a nonprofit group that's been helping, quote unquote, thousands of so-called children, minors really, who cross the southern border without their parents. Also this week, Trump, our greatest president, his border czar, Tom Homan, touted that what he said was a record low number of border encounters, 229 total encounters at the southwest border, 229. In how much time, I'm not sure. Compare that to 11,000 per day, maybe in a day, under crooked Joe Biden, said Homan in a Fox News interview. 229 encounters in a 24-hour period. Oh, there he goes. That is a record, he said. Tom Homan. President Trump said he plans to impose tariffs around 25% on auto parts, as well as auto imports, right? Not parts. Auto imports, as well as semiconductors and pharmaceuticals shipped to the United States. 25% tariff as early as April is the plan, Trump said. The steep new tariffs could have far-reaching effects extending beyond the specific industries where taxes are levied. Consumers expected to feel most of the burden, says Commie Nonsense, of the new import taxes. They're tariffs, not taxes. On automobiles, as the prices of cars could jump by thousands of dollars if they're sent from overseas. Good thing foreign companies like Toyota, they manufacture here in America in some cases, and those would not be tariffed, FYI. As for the pharmaceutical industry, the U.S. purchased more than $176 billion, with a B, billion dollars worth of drugs and related so-called goods in 2023, according to U.S. trade data, making it the largest importer of pharmaceutical products that year. Experts say that European, Indian, and Chinese firms could be the hardest hit. Nice. And a measles outbreak in West Texas, 58 measles cases reported in West Texas, including some people who said that they were vaxxed. They had got the measles vaccine. The cases are mostly in children ages 5 to 17, children and young adults. According to the Texas Department of State Health Services, given how contagious measles is, health officials, they call them, they're warning that cases may continue to rise in that area. So watch out. Measles is an airborne illness that can cause rash, fever, red eyes, and cough. Severe cases can result in blindness, pneumonia, or encephalitis. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce stuff. So swelling of the brain. So watch out. The illness can be fatal. 285 measles cases reported in the U.S. last year. I'm James Hake, now back to JLP.
Got to stand up strong, face the truth about themselves, to understand what went wrong. I know we can find a way. I know we can find a way. I know we can find a way to stand up, stand up.
The Senate debated the nomination of Alberto Gonzales today, and while Democrats, like Ted Kennedy once again, and Chuck Schumer and Pat Leahy, jumped all over him, well, where are all the minority groups coming to the defense of the first Hispanic Attorney General or the first African-American Secretary of State? Or the second. Joining us now is the author of the book Scam, the Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson. By the way, full disclosure, I am on the board of the Brotherhood Organization of New Destiny, and I received a wonderful award from Jesse's group years ago, the Booker T. Washington Award. And thank you, Jesse.
That's right. Thank you, Sean. We appreciate it.
And I hope others that are not so hypocritical now put out their disclosures. And the executive director of the New York Civil Rights Commission, Michael Meyers, is with us.
Coalition, and you're not on my board, and neither is Alan.
Would you want me on your board?
No. Continue.
Jesse, let's talk about the attacks against Alberto Gonzales and Condoleezza Rice here. And more particularly, the Latino caucus has been reported is not going to be supporting Alberto Gonzales. There's talk about a filibuster today. It was on again, off again.
That's right.
And then, you know, the viciousness in the attacks against Condi Rice. Can you not be a minority and a conservative?
We have two dynamics going on here. White liberals don't want blacks and Hispanics to succeed in America. They want to keep them on the plantation. We saw a good example of that with Senator Robert Bull Connor Byrd when he stood in the doorway of Justice Clarence Thomas, Dr. Rice, and even Thurgood Marshall when he ran for the U.S. Supreme Court. These people don't want black Americans to succeed. Robert Byrd was a member of the Ku Klux Klan. He recruited for those people, and I personally think that he's doing that now. With the black liberals, they don't want black conservatives to move forward because young black folks would see that we are in the greatest country in the world, and if you work hard, treat people in the right way, you can make it in society. And whenever you have blacks and Hispanics who are free thinkers, you're going to have these liberals coming after them because they want to keep them on the plantation of the Democratic Party.
Michael, you're dying to get in, I can tell.
Well, I think the Reverend is profoundly confused about race and certainly the nature of racism. This is not, the Gonzales nomination is not about race, it's not about racism. Indeed, the confusion is that people still see minorities as credits to their race. The issue is whether or not this nominee is a credit to his profession. The issue is whether or not this nominee...
Hang on, Jesse.
Wait a minute. I haven't had a chance to talk. It's whether this issue is whether this nominee is a credit to the nation. And the issue now is not whether or not he's Hispanic or not, because this is a time for colorblindness.
Wait a minute. Michael, let me stop you here. This is too important.
That's right.
You know something? The NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, they didn't support Clarence Thomas. That's the issue here. If the Latino coalition is not going to...
Well, let me tell you why it's not the issue. Let me tell you why it's not the issue, because...
Let me finish. They didn't support
You didn't interrupt
Mr. Gonzales.
him. You didn't interrupt him.
I won't interrupt your answer.
Okay.
Okay? The attacks against Condoleezza Rice, because she's a conservative, are not... Nobody stands up to her from these civil rights groups. There is a double standard. That's the point here. Is that groups, it's not about the advancement of African Americans, it's about the advancement of liberal African Americans. Isn't that true?
Sean, I got news for you. This is an opportunity for colorblindness. Being black is not enough. Being black has never been enough. If being Hispanic is not enough, if you are counseling the President of the United States to find legal ways of torturing suspects and people, I say Hispanic is not being enough. Just like being black is not enough. If you're sitting on the Supreme Court and you oppose the civil rights enforcement and affirmative action and in favor of the death penalty, and you're not, it's not enough.
You know, we only have a second left. You know what's really outrageous here? And then, hold on, Jesse Lee. What's really outrageous to me, Jesse Lee, is that you are injecting race into this. Liberals aren't doing it. Democrats aren't doing it. You're the one making an issue out of the color of Condoleezza Rice's skin or Alberto Gonzalez's Hispanic heritage. We're not doing it. You're the one saying we have some racial motivation. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. And by the way, in full disclosure, I have nothing to do with your organization.
I can guarantee
you can't be on my board either.
Alan, I can guarantee you if Barbara Boxer had called Sheila Jackson Lee or Maxine Water a liar, black folks would be burning down America. But because Condoleezza Rice is a Republican, and because she is a conservative,
you know what I think,
you don't hear one word.
The civil rights groups are also concerned about Michael Chertoff, and he's not black. He's white.
And all those people are racist toward black conservatives.
You know what, Jesse Lee? I think you're racist because you don't like white liberals. I think you're racist.
Are the most hated groups in America because they are Americans' dream.
I can easily say
they've done it through hard work.
I can easily say maybe that you're racist because you don't like white liberals. So I can make that assertion because you don't like white liberals like Barbara Boxer. Maybe you don't like female liberals either.
Let me get a word in before the segment goes away. Look, Sean, you got to face up realities. We are now in a culture war in the United States. a conflict over values. And values have no color. They're not black, they're not white, they're not red, they're not brown.
Michael, the NAACP...
And the issue is, are you in favor of the death penalty or are you opposed to the death penalty? Are you in favor of reproductive freedom or are you not in favor of reproductive freedom? Are you in favor of single-sex marriage or are you not in favor of single-sex marriage? Are you in favor of affirmative action or are you not in affirmative action? These are not black and white issues.
The advancement of colored people...
You have your views, I have mine.
Includes and ought to include conservatives. To not include them is bigoted politically.
The NAACP does include whites and other colors.
Conservatives.
Of course
not
they do.
It's about character and qualification.
You're a member of the NAACP. They include you.
It's about character.
They don't listen to you.
That's what
They couldn't on their board of directors.
All right, we got it right.
All right, folks, I'm back. Uniting the races with truth instead of dividing them with lies. We're also rebuilding the family by rebuilding the man. I'm Jesse Lee Peterson. Welcome to the third hour of the show already. What a mess. You can get involved by calling 888-7753, 773-888-77-JESSE. And my biblical question, how do you trust God? How do you trust God? How? You say you trust God. How do you do that? Excuse me. We have every way that you can watch and support the show listed on JesseLeePeterson.com/show. JesseLeePeterson.com/show. And if you're busy running around doing whatever it is that you're doing, you can listen to the show on your iPhone or iPad by calling the listen line on TalkStream Live at 605-615-4131. 605-615-4131. And to donate and have your comments read out loud, go to buymeacoffee.com/JLP Talk. Buymeacoffee.com/JLP Talk. Or Bond JLP Cash App. Bond JLP Cash App. Did I give out the listen line? I did. Oh, okay. It's Wednesday. And every Wednesday, it's always been and will always be Manhood Hour. What is a man? What is a man?
It's an adult human male.
Manhood. Hillary or President Trump?
I voted for Hillary Clinton.
Beta male. A man is a male who turns to man. Alpha male. Live right, be right, and lead the way.
Girls, come on. Leave the saving of the world to the men? I don't think so. I don't think so.
Hey, G and Blue, nice to see you. You know I need you.
We just landed. Our plane crashed. It's upside down.
We went to a cobbler to get new kicks.
Fire department's on site. Upside down. Everybody.
Oh, no.
He showed me plenty. I asked him nicely, do you have them in blue?
Because I was inverted.
And this is what you want flying your plane, right? This is what America has come to. It's all about making emotional people feel good. Not that they're qualified or anything, but to make them feel good. I don't know what really happened with the crash in Canada, but I would like to know, was it DEI people flying the plane? Was it women who were not qualified to fly a plane? Women are supposed to be flight stewardesses, not pilots. And I'm not saying that flight were done by women. But I do know that they have been pushing this idea that women are supposed to be pilots. If you notice, everything in America that you have allowed women to take over has only gotten worse. It ain't gotten better, but you're doing it because you're afraid of women and you want to make them feel good because you can't deal with their anger. And so they bitch about, you're not treating me equal. And so you, being in your weakness, you think you got to treat them equal because they're angry and you're trying to make them feel good. And now look what's happening. Again, I don't know who was flying this plane in Canada yet. I would like to know what was the real deal with that. And they probably would never know the real truth. The only way we would know the real truth about this if it's Donald Trump and Elon Musk was flying the plane. That's all the way we go. Then me to be like, Donald Trump was flying the plane, or Elon was flying the plane. But other than that, you're not going to know what the real, especially if women were driving, or blacks, or whatever, transgender, or whatever. What a mess we'll come to. But you can overcome that mess. We had a biblical question about anger, intellectual and angry. And I've said that any angry people are stupid people. Have you noticed that when you're angry, you say and do stupid things? Oh, the biblical question at the time was, is anger a part of intelligence or stupidity? And anger is clearly a part of stupidity. Anyone that has anger is stupid. Unless you are now realizing it and you're working on overcoming it. You're not accepting it as a norm. Anger is abnormal. And anyone that has anger is stupid. I want to give you an example. Anger is not from God. God even said, think about this. Smoke on this. God even said that I have not given you a spirit of anger, but of power and peace and love. But you still go around and say Jesus was angry. So are you saying, I can't even imagine what you're thinking. If God said, I have not given that to you, why do you think Jesus was angry? His spirit came from God. So would God give Jesus anger and then a human being? Why would you want to believe that? I want to show you just a small example of what anger can do and how stupid you look being angry. I want you to watch this video of an Amazon delivery guy getting upset after the customer threatened to report him for not delivering their door, for not delivering to their door. And it's reported that they had 2 large German Shepherd loose inside. Watch this from TikTok.
I want to know your name.
You keep saying video. Do you want to call? Do you want to call Amazon?
Yes.
Do you want to call big Amazon and tell them guys what's really going on?
Yes.
That you guys don't want to shut the door because you got 2 big dogs?
Our door's shut, but yes.
I'm
blind. I don't
so now we're taking it back to the race thing.
No, it's nothing to do with race.
Right, so in my culture, when you guys put shades on, you know what we call you guys? Karen. You know what Karens are?
Do his job.
Yeah.
It's so hot.
It's so
hot.
hot.
I'm listening. I'm not stopping him.
I
know. I get it.
My mother's blind. He left the package in the bag.
The point that he was trying to say is that he's afraid of the 2 German Shepherds. For whatever reason, he's afraid.
We understand. That's not an issue.
just asked.
Who's that? That's the father? Is that the father?
Yeah, he's also blind.
He's also blind.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the problem?
But it doesn't affect his mind. It doesn't affect his brain.
God.
Now do you see that anyone who has anger is stupid? You can't see when you're angry. And I'm not talking about the physical sin, spiritual sin. You're not going to be able to see. You're going to be stupid. And you think it's from God. Or you think it's from you. The Amazon worker called the blind customer racist and bragged that his mother's house is 3 times bigger than theirs. Watch this from TikTok.
You're racist. You what?
No. She has nothing to do with
I don't care what I feel. I'm 43. See, her mother blind, but it doesn't mess with her mind. If I tell you, could you please shut the door, the other door? Exactly. That's all I need. So they want to record me and try to make it seem like I'm the bad guy, like all white people do.
I am. I already have it on video. The Amazon driver left the package in the middle of the grass, and it's all because the dogs had the screen doors open. With the
Where's your mother?
She's talking to the neighbor because all the neighbors are out.
Recording it?
Yep. And now all the neighbors are getting involved.
She got 180 employees. Mother has
Thinks I'm being racist.
Don't ever look down. But listen, when that type of thing make me feel like you're looking down on me. You don't know me. You just know I'm a black guy. That's terrible. That I'm a black guy. My mother's house 3 times bigger than that house. Terrible.
Just don't say anything else. Let him go.
Amazing, huh? Now do you see that angry people are stupid people? If they had no anger on both sides there, they were like, oh, I apologize. Okay, here's the packet. I understand. It'd have been over with. He said his mother house bigger than their house. What does it have to do with delivering a package? One lady tried to explain to the guy that my parents are blind, or at least the man and the woman are blind people, and they didn't mean any harm, sir. But once you get angry, you don't hear anything else. And then you get a thrill from arguing. You get literally a thrill from arguing. If don't you get, when you're yelling, you feel good. When you're mad, you get a thrill. And when you're not mad, you have another thrill. It's all evil. All that was just human nature that you saw that. And human nature is evil. Why do you think people treat each other the way they treat each other, one another? They're angry, their hearts are evil, they have no love. There is no love in human nature. Zero. And you fool yourself, oh, I'm a good person. I help the homeless, I feed the homeless, I do this, and you don't even love your children. Angry people bring misery upon their own children. Angry people destroy their own children, and they call it love. I did it because I loved you. I beat you, I control you, I yell at you, I have no patience with you. I did because I love you. I told you what to do and how to live in life because I love you, an angry person would say. One other quick example of what anger can do, and I'll take your calls and super chats. Fox 11 is reporting a security guard at Taco Bell in downtown Los Angeles was seen on camera slapping a woman during a confrontation. I want you to see this from News Karnataka. An eyewitness said the woman may have been targeted due to her possible homeless status at the locations close to Skid Row. Watch it from Fox 11.
Civil rights leaders are demanding action after a guard in downtown L.A. is caught on camera slapping a woman at Taco Bell Cantina. We want to warn you, some of the video may be disturbing. This happened on Sunday. The incident has gone viral. Activists are calling for the guard's arrest, firing, and a meeting with Taco Bell's CEO to address this. There you go, right there. That was a slap. The victim, believed to be homeless, is being looked for by volunteers. Taco Bell has yet to issue a public statement. It's unclear what led to the altercation.
Amazing, huh? What's the so-called civil rights people getting involved for? Anger. I'm trying to tell you, angry people are desperate, evil people. Here's the cell phone footage of this incident from X. Amazing. You don't have to have anger, folks. You really don't. You don't have to argue with people. You don't owe anyone any explanation. You owe nothing to the world. You are your world. You need to clean up your own world and live your own life. And let everybody else have their anger. Let them have it. You don't have to be that way. Be an individual. Return to the Father by forgiving your mother, earthly mother and father, and God will forgive you and give you perfect peace. You can have perfect peace right here on earth. God did not give you a spirit of fear. Amazing, huh? It's up to you. It has nothing to do with color. It has nothing to do with finance. It has nothing to do with where you live or don't live, male or female. There are females who are working on themselves now. They have realized, because they were in denial at first, that their hearts were wicked. They were evil, and they were calling themselves good. But they realized it wasn't true. Their lives are changing. Men are doing the same. A few on both sides. Only a few. And that's all it's going to ever be, a few working on themselves. Know thyself and become free. And just know that all human beings are evil and not to be trusted. According to the Father, God. I didn't make that up myself. And if you doubt it, look at what you've thought and the way you've treated people. You look at yourself and see it's true. And then look at how you've been treated and what people thought and how they treat you. Your friends, your family members, your workers, your everybody. Your husband, your wife, and even your children. And you call it love. You call it, oh, I'm just human. Jesus was angry, they say. Let me go to Casey, a first-time call out of Texas. Casey, welcome to the show. You're on the air.
Hi.
Hey, Casey.
Hi.
Hey, Casey.
So my son, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. So my son wanted to call in and see if you can help him with his anger.
How old is he?
He's 13.
Oh, okay. And so why did he call on his own if he's 13?
Well, he did, but he wanted me to be with him. It was his idea to call it.
So why isn't he on the phone talking to me right now instead of you?
Well, I can pass you over.
No. Why didn't you, so that he can learn to be independent, why didn't you just say, well, okay, call him? Why did you have to do it for him? I want to understand that.
Well, that was, I encouraged him to call.
Right.
And then he kind of got a little bit scared. So we decided to do it together. But I guess that's me coddling him.
Well, why do you tell him, you know what, son, don't give in to the fear, call him.
Yeah.
Now he still has the fear because mama stepped in and kept the fear alive in him.
Yeah, I can see that.
Oh, man, he's 13 years old.
Yeah.
Let me talk to her.
Okay, hold on.
Hey, Jesse.
Hey, what's your name? Your first name?
Bryce.
Bryce?
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, Bryce. Let me take a quick break, all right?
All right.
The treasure chest is now open on July. Now, I totally disagree with the way things are going, but you can't be angry because that's what the enemy wants. He wants to control you. They do things to make you mad so they can control you. It's like being married, and the wife would do things to make you mad, or she'll do things to make you feel good. And men do that to women too when they want something from the woman, especially sex. They'll make her feel good, or they'll make her angry. And the woman's gonna have to say, you don't want to be angry. You want to speak up. You want to disagree with what's going on. It's wrong, but do not be angry. Then you won't have fear. You won't have doubt. You won't have worries. You'll be able to see, but you gotta stay away from anger. That's why you must forgive your mothers and your fathers so that you can overcome the spirit of anger. It's a spirit and it's wicked. Nothing good in anger because it has no love, folks. You need love to defeat evil. And love is not a weakness. It's a strength. It's from God. It's His nature.
Così bella, that's how beautiful you are. Come una giornata soleggiata, gli occhi.
All right, folks, welcome back. 888-7753-773. 888-77-JESSE. This part of the show is sponsored by Goldco. And I want to know, did you educate yourself about gold yet? Did you? It's going up. It's trending. Amazing. And I told you it would. You can't go wrong with gold. It goes up and down, but you can't go wrong with it. So what I do, I request that I will invite you to get gold and silver information kit. Goldco's gold and silver informational kit. So you can learn more about it for yourself. Know for yourself. Don't just take my word or anyone's word. You got to know for yourself. Spiritual truth and non-spiritual truth. All right? So go to, for more information, go to Goldco and get the kit. You will not be disappointed. And Goldco and I have a special going on for my listeners. Qualified accounts receive 10% instant match in bonus and silver. 10%. That's not bad. Smoke on that one. So I recommend you go to JesseLovesGold.com. JesseLovesGold.com or 855-644-GOLD. 855-644-GOLD. All right? And tell them I sent you. Amazing. I want to go quickly back to Casey out of Texas, first time call. Casey, so are you 13 years old?
Yes, I am 13.
What are you saying that? I mean, so, oh, this is Bryce, not Casey.
Yeah.
So, Bryce, you wanted to call me and talk to me about your anger?
Yes.
And why didn't you pick up the phone and do it yourself? You're 13 years old. Why didn't you do it?
I was afraid.
Of what?
I'm shy.
And why?
I really don't know.
And what does it feel like to be shy at 13?
It feels kind of weird.
Yeah. How did you become shy?
I just get shy whenever I talk to people.
And you're 13, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing. And what does your father say about you being shy? When you talk to him about it, what does he say?
I don't really talk to him about it.
And why not? Have you talked to your mother about it?
No.
And why haven't you talked to your parents about you being shy? Why haven't you spoken to them about it?
I don't know.
How will you get over it if you don't talk to your father about it?
I really don't know.
Oh, okay. Do you want to get over it?
Yeah.
And why do you want to get over being shy?
So I can talk to people without stuttering and actually make some friends.
Yeah. And why do you want to overcome your fear?
So I can, call and, yeah. So I can call without, getting shy too much.
Yeah. And how do you know you have fear? What does fear look like and feel like?
And it kind of feels like I'm trying not to do it, but I also want to do it.
So fear feel like there's something you want to do, but you kind of not want to do it, but you still want to do it, but you can't because you have fear?
Yeah.
Amazing, huh? And how did you become angry?
Just kind of happens, and I don't really know how to take control of my anger, so.
You don't know how to take control of it?
Yeah.
And when you talked to your father, when you told your father you were angry and that you don't want to be angry, what did he say?
Just take deep breaths and focus on the good. And then
Focus on what good?
the good that I have in life.
So he wants you to take a deep breath and focus on the toys you have?
No.
Well, focus on what?
Focus on the our family and all the good stuff and all the good stuff that I have in my life.
Like what?
Like my family, my friends.
Oh, and did you do that?
Yeah.
And did it work?
Sometimes. Not really.
It's never going to work. And when you told your mother you were angry, and what did she say to do, for you to do?
Usually I talk to my dad, not my mom, but,
Oh, okay. And so what's your question for me?
How can I overcome my anger?
You got to forgive your mother for imposing on you by being lack of patience, trying to tell you what to do all the time or not to do, how to be or not to be, yelling at you and then trying to be fun with you or pretend to be good with you. You got to forgive her for doing that. She cannot help herself. And when you forgive her, God will forgive you for being angry, and he'll take, because that's your mother's spirit in you, He'll take your mother spirit out of you. He would take away that mindset of anger and all those emotions that come with anger. He'll take it away from you, but you got to forgive your mother for what she's done to you, making you angry as a kid.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
And then forgive your father for not protecting you from her. When you ask your father about protecting you from your mother, what did he say or what does he say?
I've never really thought about doing that.
Okay. Well, forgive your father. Ask him first, why doesn't he protect you from your mother, right? And then forgive him because he's afraid of your mother. Because what happens when you become angry at your mother, and all men and women are angry at their mother. They hate their mothers. That's why they become just like the mother. They get angry, emotional, and have fear and doubt. They become like what they hate. But your father has the same problem. So he married, the woman he married is his mother. So he become the boy and she become the mother. So forgive your father for not protecting you. He loved you. He just didn't know how to protect you from your mother, all right?
Okay.
And so now you got to face your mother and your father. You're going to shake in your boots. But just know fear is not real. It's just an illusion in the mind. And when you let the anger go, fear will disappear. You will no longer have fear.
Okay.
And then, and the last thing I want you to do, and I'm not talking about like when you get ready to walk across the road or somewhere, you look both ways so you don't get hit by a car or anything like that. But when you want to do something, but the mind is telling, like you wanted to make this phone call, and the mind is telling you, oh, don't do it. It's going to look silly. You're not going to sound right. Don't pay any attention to that fear. You make the call anyway, you know what I mean? Or do whatever you got to do anyway. And you're going to see that the fear is an illusion. It's not real.
Okay.
But don't worry about that for now. But what I want you to do, apologize to your mother for being angry at her because she can help herself. And God will forgive you. Don't ask for forgiveness. You just apologize for being angry. And God will forgive you, all right? And let me know how it goes.
All right.
One last thing. Have you heard about my silent prayer?
Yes, I have.
I want you to start doing that. Rebuildingtheman.com/prayer, silent prayer. I want you to start doing that, all right?
All right.
And so you can stay out of the thoughts. All thoughts are all lies all the time about anything.
Okay.
How are you feeling right now?
Better.
And did this help you a little bit?
Yes.
In what way did it help?
It helped by, I now know the tools that I need to know to get over my anger and my fear and my shyness.
Right on. And I promise you, if you apologize to your mother for resenting her for what she did to you, and to your father for not protecting you from your mother, all the fear and the anger and everything would disappear. And then do the silent prayer so you could stop living in your thoughts. Those thoughts are not true. The good ones or the bad ones, they're all lies. They're not true, all right?
Okay.
Let me know how it goes, Bryce.
I will.
Oh, man, take anything else?
That's it.
Thank you, buddy.
You're welcome.
All right. Amazing. 888-775. See, it's the same spirit even at 13. Because it starts in childhood. Fear, anger, loneliness, suicidal thought, none of those things came from God. They are in the hearts and minds of angry people. Satan is your God. And it comes through your mother. And the men and women, you got to forgive your parents so you don't do it to yourself or your children. Anyone that has anger is stupid. And don't let anyone tell you that anger is normal. Look how miserable you are having anger. You know what I mean? 888-7753-773. Super chat. Super.
Well, Lin Yun Chin gave a super chat saying,
what Nate doing?
Oh, he is waking up the mouse.
Oh, okay.
Tell Jesse, in response to the biblical question.
Who is this?
Lin Yun Chin.
How do you trust God?
Trust in God means relax into realizing the presence of God, he says.
Thank you. I'll put my little 2 cents in on Sunday. I appreciate it.
He adds, it doesn't mean suspend disbelief about God, like mouth breathers would interpret it. Trust God by letting go of trying to trust.
Thank you. I'll put my 2 cents in on Sunday. I gotta wait. Amazing. Thank you.
Someone bought 5 coffees. Hi, Jesse. Beta pastors argue that salvation is a process and that they still sin. But we know that a born-again cannot sin, but is changed to a new creature in a twinkling of an eye. Is the process of overcoming the results of not being saved? Please elaborate.
Repeat that, I'm sorry.
Is the process overcoming the results of not being saved?
What was the first part?
That you cannot sin, you're changed to a new creature. But is the process overcoming the results of not being saved earlier in life?
So the person saying that we know that
you don't sin after you're born again.
That's what they say, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if they know that, how are they asking that question? Because I don't understand the question.
They're asking the overcoming the results from when you were not saved. You're into a lot of mess, and you don't even realize how much mess that you're in.
It's not quite clear for me.
Okay.
Is it clear to you?
I think it is.
I don't want to just respond just to be responding. Make it a little clearer for me. Because on one hand, you're saying that you know that
you don't sin.
Right.
And someone is not saying that you still sin, but there is a process throughout life.
Are they saying they went through that process or something?
No. Doesn't say anything about what he or she has gone through.
Make it clear for me. I want to be fair to you, so you can either call me, 888-77-JESSE, or make it clear in your super chat there.
Thank you, someone, for your 5 coffees.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm not saying the question, it's just I'm not understanding it. Thank you.
Forgive your mama bought a coffee. This is the 3rd time James has skipped over my chat. Seems intentional at this point. So no more coffees from me since you guys aren't holding up your end of the bargain. I don't know what you're referring to, Forgive your mama. I read all coffees. So I'll go through and check and make sure that I've read them all. But I have never knowingly skipped any super chat. And when I notice that I missed one, I go back and make sure I read it. So you'll have to contact the producer, or I'll check through and make sure that I've read them all. Forgive your mama.
Don't take it personal, super chat. Forgive him. Things happen, all right?
Yeah.
Don't go from love to hate. What?
Indeed.
You stay with love. If you love us even when mistakes are made. All right? But thank you, and we'll check that out.
And then sometimes people accuse me of missing them when they missed that I read them.
Oh,
so,
okay.
FYI.
FYI. Oh, FYI, the Women's Forum is tomorrow night.
Indeed.
At 7 p.m. latest. The 3rd Thursday of the month is tomorrow night. Get ready. Amazing.
Anthony gave a Cash App, Bond JLP on Cash App. Why is A.O. Cortez not in jail for treason? Of NYC, Sandy Cortez.
Oh.
I don't know. I'm not sure which treason she did.
Me either. But I don't know. I'm not saying she didn't. I'm just not aware of that. And I don't even know why she in government.
Yeah.
Who voted for her? Were they all on pot or something? What the? Amazing.
That's New York for you. They don't elect good people for the most part nowadays. Broken Record bought a coffee. Jesse, what do you think about Trump picking Paula White as spiritual advisor when she says things like, I hear victory, victory, victory in the courts of heaven. Angels are being dispatched in Africa right now. Africa right now. Africa right now. Angels are being dispatched in Africa right now. It sounds like she's invoking evil into the U.S. He should have picked Jesse.
Keep it piffy. What? Piffy, but thank you. I think it's I can't. It must be for the women's vote or something, because I have no idea. Trump know better than put a woman as the leader of spiritual advice over man. Women shouldn't even be spiritual advice over other women. So I'm totally against that, 100%. It had to be for the vote. That woman's insane, by the way. But let me thank you all.
We'll read the rest later, guys.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. Let me go quickly to Wesley, a first-time call out of Indiana. Wesley, welcome to the show. You're on the air. Wesley?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
You're on the air.
Hey, Jesse.
Hey, Wesley.
I just wanted to give my opinion about the I called originally about the flight that crashed in Canada.
Yes.
Just give my opinion, but just wanted to also let you know that I've been listening to your show in the last 6 months, and my faith has become really good.
Your what?
A lot closer. My faith with God has become a lot better now.
All right, come back to your phone, Wesley.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
I just wanted to call and say thank you for all the information that I've learned, and that I'm going to keep watching your show and supporting you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. But I want to encourage you to stay with it, stay with it, stay with it. Have you gone and forgiven your mother?
You know, that's a good question. I was adopted at age 7 or 8 years old, so I don't know my biological family.
You can't find them?
I can, but, you know, with everything going on in my life personally, looking for a job, I'm actually applying for a job right now at an airport.
Oh. Sorry. What?
So, yeah. Well, you know.
But have you forgiven your adopted parents?
I don't. I don't know who they are.
Your adopted parents, the ones you.
I don't. Oh, my adopted parents. I apologize.
Yeah.
I have not. But I've been trying. I've been working on that. I've been trying to not shake on my boots so bad.
But you're gonna have to shake, and in the shaking, you're gonna have to face them, so that you can overcome the shaking. You're not going to get over the shaking until you face them.
Okay.
What do you think will happen if you went and say, hey, I apologize for resenting you for this or that. I realize now you did your best. Thank you. What will happen if you apologize for resenting them?
I would feel better, personally.
And so why don't you go so that God can forgive you when you forgive others?
Scared. Try not to be a beta male.
And what are you afraid of?
Shaking in my boots.
But why?
I guess just the disappointment. I really don't know.
And how old are you?
I'll be 50 on Friday.
And who told you that you should be afraid?
Nope. I guess the devil.
And why are you listening to evil? Because that fear is not from God. Why are you listening to evil?
I believe because my faith with God is not as strong as it could be.
Right. It's not at all.
Yeah.
But it would change if you shake in your boot and live your life. You got to live with the fear. You got to live with the loneliness. You got to live with the doubt. You got to be with it and do nothing about it. But continue to live, and God would take that away from you. He's trying to change your nature from that to His nature. But if you let the fear control you, He can't help you.
Sounds like a great plan.
So, are you doing the silent prayer?
I am not.
You got to work on yourself, man.
Yeah, I know.
What a mess.
Well, I'm just a lazy American.
Evidently. Living in your misery. And because of time, what do you want to say about the plane thing?
Oh, I'm just amazed about how they let that plane try to land in all that snow.
Yeah.
And all that heavy wind.
I wonder if we will ever find out what the real deal was with that plane, though. Have they said who was flying the plane yet?
I haven't heard anything about it.
Yeah.
Hopefully no beta males.
Yeah. Amazing. All right, Wesley, go deal with your parents, do the silent prayer, work on your life so you can be free.
Thanks, Jesse. You guys have a great day.
You too, buddy. 888-753-773. I am totally out of time. That hour went by so fast. I knew we should have probably done replays for the whole hour. But I'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow is Bible Thumper Thursday. And to the caller, David out of Canada, Mike, a first-time call out of Texas, Andrew out of Scotland, and somebody who just dropped, and somebody calling now. I'm out of time. That hour was like a minute, to be honest. I'll be back tomorrow if the Lord is willing and the creek don't rise, all right? And to the Super Chat, thank you. I appreciate it. We'll finish those tomorrow. And the person that said, hey, missed one of theirs, we'll find out more about that, what really happened with that. All right, and let you know. The Hake Report is coming up now from 9 to 11. After the Hake Report, Joel Friday TV. And after Joel Friday TV, the American Anchor Baby. The American Anchor Baby. Have a good day, folks.
Track one time. Joel Friday here. Look, stand up, we got fighting to do. We gotta show him who boss. He put a Viking in you. He put that lightning in you. Igniting the truth. But you beg and blame and lie and hate and never wanna stand for the truth. So what you planning to do? You understanding the lose. You better go talk to your mama. Better stop at the drama. Better drop all the trauma. Boy, you better stand up, man up. Put your hand up and hut. Cause if we don't, then we lose. And then we gotta hear the fake news. Whoa. So you get something went wrong, but face the truth about yourself and just seek first God's kingdom, cause you must know that so you get something went wrong, but face the truth about yourself and just seek first God's kingdom, cause I know we can find a way. I know we can find a way.
We have a counseling service, and I have to admit, thanks to God, it is the best counseling service on this side of heaven. I counsel with men and women, families, individuals around the world. Most people are unhappy, they're miserable, they have rough lives, they're depressed, suicidal, young and old, of all races. I understand, I know why, and I do understand it. Because exactly what's happening in me is happening with everybody outside of me, inside of them. And I've noticed that with those who really, really, really want to understand, they overcome it just like that, out of one counseling session. If you need counseling, you can go to rebuildingaman.com or call 800-411-2663. 800-411-BOND. Best counseling service on this side of heaven.
I just want to say thank you for everything that you do. You've absolutely changed my life for the positive, and I just want to thank you. I was 29-year-old beta, living at home with my mom, and just was living in fear and in doubt, and I couldn't hold down a job. And then I found you, and I started listening, and I started just being more at peace. And I forgave my mom, and I forgave my father. And it's like right after that, everything just changed in my life, and I was able to get a good job, and I moved out, and I live on my own now, and everything has just changed. And I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate you for spreading that message. It really is a positive message.
Amazing. That's good, man. I want people to know God loves us in ways that there are no words to express, because you have nothing to compare it to, right? Stay with the silent prayer. You haven't seen anything yet. It gets better.